This meeting is being recorded.
Business, my sales have gone up without any exaggeration, let's say in the four figures, just because I started talking differently about my product. I haven't even done the funnels yet, but I'm talking differently and it's mattered. So for that, I am grateful.
My largest contract, my single largest contract that I have secured with an organization has been for over $300,000 in one deal, and that was a 6-month engagement. I wanted to only take on 3 clients, and I was like, I want to do 500K this year, and I'm happy to say that this year we're gonna close the year out at 669.
Blew my mind, but I followed that triple C method in our 90-day action plan, and I made over $300,000 in 7 days. So I sent Nani that screenshot. I was amazed. I was shocked. I knew I was going to make money because I continue to follow the 90-day action plan, but it was 360 something $1,000. I don't even remember the number.
Thank you so much. Because they are very happy, very satisfied.
Okay, so let's do some calculations really quickly. That is how many more trucks?
283.
So that contract, because it's a 2-year contract or 3? Let's freaking go. Okay. So that was 150. Hold on. That's $57K a year. 57,732.
I'm dancing.
That's $173,196, ma'am. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Phenomenal. That is phenomenal.
So many wins. First of all, Nani is the truth, and everything she says to do, you must listen to her, even if it's uncomfortable. I'm so happy. Like, my SOPs are in full flow. We've got client prospect onboarding processes now. A month ago, I didn't want to look at Asana. So now I'm like in there. My team feels fully equipped. I actually have 3 close calls scheduled this week. We had one prospect agree to come on board for 25K. So she's our first 25K client. I am learning that I get to decide what type of clients I want to work with, and I get to decide that whether or not I want to work with them. I feel so confident in my ability to tell her she's not a good fit because I have so many other people in the pipeline that see the value that I bring. And I am now clear, so clear on the value that I bring. So those are my wins.
Woo woo. Okay. Every time I hear some of my founders, I start cheesing so hard my cheeks start hurting. First of all, welcome to day 3 of the Scaling CEO Mastermind. This is the 3-day mastermind that was designed and put in place to help you systemize your high ticket business to reach 100K plus months without needing more launches, without needing 9 offers and 17 logins, without hiring another random contractor, and without you having to carry your entire team. So these past 3 days has really been about getting to your next big revenue milestone without the stress and without the time strapped behaviors that got you stuck at your current revenue milestone. Okay. Now, what I mentioned to you all Monday and Tuesday, I told you all that by the end of this mastermind, you will have a cheat code on how to close the areas where your business is leaking revenue. You'll have an actionable playbook of the levers that you need to pull to scale your offer to the next milestone. And you're going to have a refined $1 million vision of your offer and the structure that your next level requires. And I also gave you all house rules to follow to make sure that you get the most out of your time or out of our time together. Okay. So I'm going to go back over those house rules because, mind you, I think I told you all a little bit about my story and where I came from and background. I will get into all of that stuff, but I will say that each day has been getting better and better. And so, as a reminder to maintain the integrity of the room, number 1, be sure to turn your cameras on if possible. Why is that? Because presence matters. And the CEOs who get the most from rooms like this are the ones that stay engaged, and they're the ones that stay visible. So if your camera can be on, definitely be sure to turn it on. We have had some amazing conversations and some amazing breakthroughs just Monday and Tuesday alone, and energy travels through the room. Number two, participate in the chat. I told y'all this is not a lecture. This is not me teaching a thing and then you just absorbing the stuff. Use the chat, use the time that we actually come on, and especially during the panel we have today to share insights, to ask questions, to call out exactly what you're noticing in your business because you all may experience some breakthroughs that might come from something that someone else says and not necessarily something that I say in this room. Number three, block out the noise. So for the next 2 hours, we're not answering emails, we're not checking Slack, we're not putting out fires. And I mentioned if your business cannot run without you for 2 hours, it's exactly the reason why you need to be paying attention. Okay. It's one of that's exactly the reason why this mastermind is for you. Okay. Number four, think like a CEO, not like an employee. So we're not asking the question, what should I do? We're asking as scaling CEOs, what systems do I need to put in place that need to change? So everything that we have discussed and that we will discuss should be filtered through the question, if I were running a multi-million dollar company, which in some of you all's cases is your reality, right? Like how would I solve this thing? For those of you who don't or who aren't running multi-million dollar companies, like you're pacing there. The actions that you're taking, even if you just gotten to your first 100K. Yesterday, we talked about exactly what your goals were looking like, how much more you'd like to bring in annually. And the consensus that I saw was anywhere between an additional 250K to an additional 500K, right? So all of the things that we went over and all the things we're going to be going over today will absolutely help to get you there. Number five is that implementation will always rule over inspiration. You all are not the type of CEOs that need more information. You all are here for decision points that need to be made in your business. So as we close out today, I will have fulfilled all three promises. Okay. Now, if what you've heard this week so far lights a freaking fire under you, whether you were here live, you saw the replays, whatever the case may be, I'm actually going to talk about what it's going to look like to have us install all the systems that we touched on this week to propel your 100K results into multiple six figures, your multiple six-figure results into seven-figure ones. And if you've already reached your first seven-figure milestone, we'll talk about exactly what it's going to take for you to hit the multi seven-figure milestone simply by having our $12 million infrastructure and dream teams embedded into the empire that you've already built. So for those that stay until the end, I'm also going to tell you how you can gain access to two fast action bonuses. One of them is our seven-figure LinkedIn sales mastery system, which in essence is essentially the system that we use internally and that we share with our clients that locked in $2 million for us out of the 4 million we've made just in the last 2 years alone. Okay. The other is a 12-month scaling CEO roadmap that actually provides the full play by play of the exact steps that you're going to need to take to add an additional 100,000 to 500K or more to your bottom line this year with less than 10 clients. Okay. Because high ticket is how you're going to be getting there after your systems are set up the right way. So if we are ready to rock and roll, let me get some fire emojis in the chat because y'all know I like talking to you all and I like seeing the engagement inside of the chat. So I'm waiting for my fire emojis. And what I'm going to thank y'all for my fires. I appreciate you. So during day one, what we did together is that we diagnosed the major areas where your business was leaking money. And we identified that you were either dealing with a visibility leak, a delegation leak, a systems leak, more than one leak, or possibly all three leaks. Okay. So if you are dealing with a visibility leak, you are completely invisible to the exact people who could pay you the most. And you may have this visibility leak if you are posting constantly or consistently, but leads are not coming in. People typically tell you things like, I didn't know you did that. Your audience engages, but they rarely convert. And then you really rely heavily on referrals to get clients. So this happens when your message lacks authority and therefore is not attracting your $1 million buyer. I appreciate my I appreciate my fire emojis, y'all. Now, you all are experiencing a delegation leak. You may have a delegation leak if you're involved in almost every decision in your business. If your team constantly ask you what to do day to day, even after you give them instructions to follow for the day or for the week or for the month. You may have a delegation leak if you feel like you are the hub of the business because the main knowledge bank still lives inside of your head. Okay. Work productivity slows down and the quality of your work suffers when you step away. That's absolutely a delegation leak red flag. And you also notice that the success of your business depends on your availability. Okay. Lastly, we talked about a systems leak. So, systems leak is this is actually the leak that most founders don't necessarily realize they have because the business might still be making money, but it's incredibly fragile. And so, what this leak looks like is that things typically break when the team grows. You're onboarding new clients, but it feels very chaotic because you don't have like a really it's step by step, play by play. Here's how we do this system in place. You have a systems leak if processes live in either your head as the key man or somebody else's head in your team. And so that what needs to be done can't be duplicated unless that person actually gets the thing done. And you also have a systems leak if operations feel reactive instead of predictable. What happens is that the business is running on effort instead of infrastructure. So you all give me V in the chat, D in the chat, or S in the chat, depending on what those systems are or what the different kinds of leaks that you have inside of your business as of identifying these things. Okay. Okay. I can dig it. We have visibility. Somebody says all of them. Visibility in systems. I can dig it. Okay. Okay, got it. So usually, oh boy. Okay, so essentially most of you all have more than one leak going on, okay? During day 2, we design the machines needed in your business so that you're consistently and predictably attracting, nurturing, converting, and delivering for your $1 million client. So that showed up in the form of 4 engines. Okay. We had the authority engine, the lead engine, the sales engine, and the delivery engine. And so the authority engine is what makes the right people aware of you. That's what positions you as the obvious expert in your category. So instead of chasing clients, clients actually begin seeking you out. The lead engine is what converts attention into real opportunities. And that moves people from curiosity to trust to a sales conversion without you having to manually chase them. And then lastly, well, not lastly, but you have your sales engine, and that engine turns opportunities into revenue. So that's what creates a clear conversion process. You have a strong sales engine, that means that the right prospects are moving through a structured sales journey instead of you having to rely on random conversations and referrals. That's completely unreliable. And then lastly, we have the delivery engine. And this is the engine that a lot of founders neglect, but it determines whether or not a business can actually scale. So this engine is put in place to make sure that client work is actually delivered consistently and efficiently without you as the founder having to do all the things. Okay. These were all the components of a multi-million-dollar business machine. And what we put inside the businesses that have scaled from 100K to a million and from a million to multiple millions is like all of these things. So now today we answer the most important question. How does this machine actually get installed? Okay. And this is essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my whiteboard really quickly here. Let me see if I can do this. Doopy doopy doo. We've been having fun with the whiteboard all week, y'all. All right, let me do this here. This is where most founders get stuck, and I'm just gonna kind of let me see. Excuse me, I got the sniffles this morning. Okay. So this is where I notice a lot of founders get stuck. Many founders, and y'all listen, if any of this sounds like you, simply type me in the chat so I know I'm not talking to a brick wall here, right? Many founders try to scale the same offer that got them to their first level of success. Okay. And that offer usually looks like, so I'm gonna put your first offer or your main offer. Level 1 offer. Let me put that down. Level 1 offer. Here we go. Level 1 offer. And that offer typically looks like lots of customization. Customization. You're just doing what clients are asking you to do. There's no system behind what you're doing. You just appreciate the fact that somebody's paying you some money. Okay. That level one offer usually looks like you granting lots of access because you don't yet understand the power of drawing boundaries as yet. That first offer usually looks like lots of hours committed either to your clientele or lots of hours committed to actually creating the thing, right? And it also looks like a lot of founder involvement. And what happens here is that it can't be scalable because there's only a certain number of hours in the day slash week slash month. And if you're filling up your calendar, the more clients that you have, at that point, it spells burnout, right? It's not scalable. So here's a situation. Your level one offer that requires a lot of customization and access and hours to you and involvement directly from you, that typically works when you're building momentum. But it breaks once you start growing because your business becomes limited by how much you can personally handle. Okay. So instead of asking, well, how much can I handle? Scaling CEOs ask something very, very different. They're thinking, okay, what kind of business model protects my energy, my delivery, and my long-term margin? So I'm gonna put here $1 million offer. Okay, because we want to differentiate. I'm gonna put $1 million offer. Okay. And I'm so excited for our panel. Oh my gosh, y'all. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. So, this is important because well, as a matter of fact, let me make sure that I'm taking notes here. We're thinking about your $1 million offer being able to protect your energy. So, I'll put protect your energy. You want it to protect your delivery. And you want it to protect your long term margin. Okay. Now, this is super important because once your revenue grows, your business actually has to support bigger capacity without you burning out. Okay. So, the $1 million offer shift is where your offer starts to evolve. A true $1 million offer is designed around three things. Okay. It's designed around three things. It's designed around high value, boopity boopity boop. It's designed around high clarity. So, high value meaning, can I actually quantify the kind of return that my client is going to get as a result of working with me? Can I quantify the kind of result my client is going to get as a result of working with me? Okay. High clarity. Am I making the path from A to Z super easy for them to be able to accomplish without them having to be in the trenches doing the thing? Usually, the more done for you components that you have available, the higher a price point you can command. Okay. And that's exactly the reason why it'd be a whole lot easier to get to 100K to 500K with less than 10 clients. As a matter of fact, this morning, I just got off the line with my elite founders, and one of them closed a client. He's in the travel industry. He's been in the travel industry for 15 years. And this is the very first time he's been able to close a $250,000 client. His goal was to make, what was it? I think his goal was 500K. 2 clients, lock that in. Done. Right? So we have high value, high clarity. I see the claps. Yes, we love the claps. High value, which is the ROI. High clarity, which is how clear you can make the path from A through Z with as less involvement as the client as possible, right? And then high leverage. High leverage. Boom shakalaka. High leverage, which essentially is that delegation piece. Like, how easy, I'm going to put ease, how easy is it for the founder to be able to get to results? Okay. That $1 million offer, like, it literally reflects the best outcome that you create, not necessarily the most hours that you can personally deliver. Okay. So here are a few rules to follow considering or concerning your offer. Okay. And these, oh my gosh, these are so incredibly important. So I'm going to put them in red because they're that important. Okay. The first thing, the first thing you want to make sure that your $1 million offer, or the first rule to consider rather, whenever you are considering crafting and selling and converting clients into your $1 million offer, do not, but do not tie it to time. Okay. Do not tie your $1 million offer to time. Okay. The reason why we don't want to do that, the reason why we don't want to do that is because time is finite. I was mentioning that is the only commodity that you spend without knowing the balance to it. Okay. It is something that you can buy back through leveraging your time through other people, but it's something that once it's spent up, you can't reverse time, but you can make as much money as possible. If you tie something as finite as time to something as infinite as money, you've already cut yourself off by the ankles. Okay? Do not tie your offer to time, aka do not exchange time for money. Don't exchange hours worked for a certain amount of money, because the better you get at your expertise, and we all determined that we're all experts. We've been doing this for 5 years plus. In some cases, for you all, you've been doing what you do for 20 years, 30 years. Geniuses at what you do, right? But if you're tying it to hours worked, at that point, the better and better you get at your craft, now the less and less money you get paid. Are you kidding me? When you're able to execute a whole lot faster. Okay, I hope that makes sense to everybody. All right, so that's rule number one. What you also want to do, rule number two, let me kind of scroll down here. Rule number two, avoid one-on-one. Avoid one-on-one at all costs. What you want to transition to is one-to-many. Okay? Why do we want to do that? Because you can impact more people and deliver a higher quality transformation without, again, tying up your time with more clients and a full calendar. Okay? So that's the magic behind having $1 million offer that you can scale to the moon. It doesn't directly involve you, or you can do a one-to-many approach. Okay? Another thing, and this kind of goes into not tying it into time, but what you want to do is use ROI, or return on investment based pricing. Okay. Use ROI based pricing. What do I mean by that? What I mean is quantify your outcome, because some of you all don't even realize how much money you are leaving on the table when you don't know how to price your expertise via ROI based pricing. I'll give you an example. And this is a brand new client that's coming in, joining us, and she does event marketing, right? And so we had a bit of a strategy chat, and she mentioned for her event marketing, mind you, she has worked with companies that sell tickets. I mean, that host in-person events that just off the ticket sales they have made millions of dollars at. We're talking Afrotech. We're talking, what was another one? There was a couple other ones, but Afrotech stood out the most to me because I was like, oh my God, Afrotech, right? Now, in her particular case, I said, well, how much did you charge? She said, $1,600 a month. She freaking weeds. Okay. So, mind you, her impact directly led to them selling thousands of tickets and making millions of dollars just on the front end with ticket sales. So I said, okay, for what you bring to the table from an event marketing standpoint, what we actually ended up coming to was that she could charge no less than $6,000 to $10,000 per month for a 3 month or 6 month engagement. I think it was $10,000. So if they're working with her for 3 months, $30K baseline. If they're working with her for 6 months, $60K baseline. And then what you want to do, because if you all were in here yesterday, one of the founders that you heard from was Carrie Lynn, who was a negotiation package, like she's a exit and like a salary negotiation strategist, long story short. And her model that we talked about her using, yep, you got it. The model that we talked about her using was that base pay, and she had something on the back end called a success fee, and she has a 20% success fee. That one success fee that she had for a client enabled her to make $240,000 on top of all the revenue that she was already making. So she hit her 500K goal last year, right? In the case of our brand new client that did not know, hello with the hot diggity. I say hot diggity. In the case with our brand new client, number one, now we're not shooting ourselves in the foot anymore by only charging $1,600 a month. It's 10K off rip, especially because the value that you bring to them is no less than 500K to $1 million per event. So you charge them the baseline to do the event marketing, plus a certain percentage of ticket sales, because it's kind of like a commission-based situation. I said, if you had charged, let's say 2%, 2% of ticket sales, how much would that have been? Hold on, just from that one, let me do some math here, because I was like, girl, we're going to have to fix this. What's 2% of $1 million? I want to say it's 200K, but I could be 0.02. $20,000. So an additional, and mind you, it could be 2 to 5%, right? So let's say $20,000 to $50,000 on top of the 30K to 60K. How much did we lose out on? Simply by not focusing on ROI based pricing. We lost out on no less than $80,000 to $100,000. For what? For what? Okay. So I'm telling you, ROI based pricing is going to win every time. All right. Number four. Boom. What you want to focus on, and this may seem counterintuitive, focus on disqualifying. Okay. We want to focus on disqualifying. Why does this sound counterintuitive? Because you're past the point where you're just accepting money from anybody who's willing to pay you. When you're in scaling mode, what you want to do is treat pricing like a filter. So your pricing should actually attract the right clients. It should repel the wrong ones who are not serious. Because there are a lot of people who are curious. Yeah, I'm curious, but I'm here to shop around. I'm here to see what's going on. I'm here to learn more information. Listen, I've been in business entirely too long, and and we'll have those conversations too with the panelists as well. I've been in business entirely too long to understand what it means to have somebody in my atmosphere who's just curious and who wants to learn more information. I have automation set up for that. Watch a video, read a book. Don't bother me. Don't bother me, because my time is entirely too valuable. And that's the same kind of energy that you want to bring to the table, because you are the authority. And if you're the one that's bringing forth solutions, what you want to make sure of is that the people that are in front of you are the people that are actually going to equate to dollars and cents. Are you feeling where I'm coming from? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Right? So once you have automations and systems, et cetera, that are in place that allow people to self-eliminate, I have had, how do I say? I said this yesterday, where I used to sell a $397 annual package that was like pulling freaking teeth. And I've also sold $130,000 packages, and those clients didn't bat an eyelash. Paid the invoice on time, every time, no objections. Do you think I'm going to be sweating over somebody that doesn't want to come out of pocket for $369? We're good. Don't stop talking to broke people. Because listen, in the world of abundance, and I get that you're in a place and space where, because you innately are a servant first entrepreneur, you're here to make an impact. You built your business to make an impact. You built your business to touch as many people as you possibly can. And the thing that I had to learn from other millionaires, from other 7, 8, 9, 10-figure earners, is that when you are able to get in front of the right people who can afford your rates, that allows you the mental bandwidth and the financial bandwidth to then reach back and touch people in all different kinds of ways that you couldn't do because you're only focusing on talking to people who can't afford to work with you. Who are you helping doing that? Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense when I say that. Okay. Okay. I don't want to get preachy on y'all. But that's what I had to find. That's what I found out. I was like, okay, that makes perfect sense. And the people who do pay the most, that when you pay money, you pay attention. You read, you follow instructions. And what happens when that goes down? That means you actually reach the transformation. How many of you have gotten access to something for free and didn't put nearly as much value to it as you would have if you would have paid five to $10,000 for the same access?
I paid 500 for a program and I've never opened it to this day. And it was a couple of years ago. I did it. It was the end of the year. So I wanted a tax refund or something. I don't know. Crazy. So yes, I agree. They have to have value in it.
You got it, Cindy. You got it, Cindy. And here's the situation, because there have been times where you're right. I paid $200 for something, and mind you, the mindset is so much different. But I'm excited to get our panelists in because we're gonna have some good conversation, y'all. Okay. Let me see if I can get to my other my other rules. So don't tie it to time. Avoid one-on-one. We want to gravitate toward one-to-many. Use ROI-based pricing. Focus on disqualifying, mainly because pricing is not just revenue. You want to design your offer around your cognitive capacity, not your calendar availability. Okay. And here's the situation. If you've made the mistake of designing your calendar around client demand, you'll be focusing on, how do I say, if you design your offer or your calendar around client demand, you will not be able to focus on what you have the brain power to actually manage. It's one thing to say, yes, I'll be able to work with X amount of clients if they pay me, X amount of money. But the more of those clientele, the bigger your clientele gets, the more exhausted and burnt out that you become, right? So that means that when you design or reframe your $1 million offer, you're protecting time for strategy. You're protecting your time for vision. You're protecting your time to build partnerships. You're protecting your time to lead your team. Okay. And that is when your business grows fastest, when you, as the founder, are operating in your highest value role. All right. Okay. Now that was essentially my situation. And we're about to take a quick pivot. Give me 1 second because I'm going to share my screen again, y'all. Boom, shakalaka. Oh, by the way, before I do that, let me zoom out here. You all take your screenshot. After you take your screenshot, let me know. Give me a fire emoji in the chat when I can move on. Okay. Once I see 5 fire emojis. Brenda says, yes, it's so much easier to deal with high paying clients. It's ridiculous. So true. So true. So true. So true. Okay. I'm waiting on 4 more and then I can move on. Okay. Because every time I cut this off, once I exit out of the whiteboard, I will not be able to re-access it. So make sure you take your screenshot and then I can move on. Da, 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 da. Yay, yay. All right, 3 more, and then I can move on. Doobie 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 doo. Shooby dooby doo. Still waiting, y'all. Hey, 2 more. Doobie doobie doo. Y'all still writing notes? What's happening? Okay, 1 more. And then I will share my screen. I'll get outside of this whiteboard. Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right, here we go. So, in my particular situation, and this is the boat I was riding in and the hill that I was dying on. And here's the situation, okay? I want to kind of bring you all's remembrance back to day one, okay? I want to remind you all of, before you tell me this would be fantastic. Selling high ticket would be great if we weren't already in an economic recession and the world wasn't going crazy. I also want to remind you of something that we touched during day one. Do not let what is happening around you deter you from executing on the very thing that separates your current reality from the one that has lived in your notes app for years at this point. Okay. Remember that during every single economic shift, some founders step back, they don't do anything, or some founders step back and kind of wait. Other founders just freeze and don't do anything. But a small group of founders scale aggressively. And that's the kind of founder that you've learned to become over these last 3 days. Not necessarily because the economy is perfect, but because your business machines are now going to be stronger. You remember the three examples that I gave of companies that looked at economic uncertainty and ate it for breakfast because they positioned themselves for scalability. Airbnb emerged from the 2008 financial crisis where travel was dropping dramatically, hotels were struggling, and Airbnb just looked like a terrible idea. But the founders repositioned Airbnb as affordable travel for the people who wanted to travel and were still going to travel, and then they also repositioned as extra income for homeowners. And the result of that is that less than 2 years later, they generated over $7.2 million. 4 years after that, they received a $10 billion valuation and raised over $1.8 billion in capital. And they're still flourishing almost 10 years later. Netflix. Remember, we touched on Netflix. Netflix decided to disrupt the industry and respond early, way before people were thinking about streaming movies and shows online. They adapted to where the marketplace was shifting and they stepped away from mail in DVD rentals. Who remembers when they were doing that in 1997? Unlike Blockbuster, who got shut down because they did not keep up with the times, they didn't adapt. Netflix was actually able to flourish. Because Netflix stood out as a one of one, they blew up to $8 billion less than 10 years into their infancy. Their valuation now today is worth over $250 billion as of this year because innovation and adaptation is the hill that they die on. Lastly, we talked about service businesses during COVID because that's the most recent craziest thing that was going on, at least before war in Iran and all that. All that stuff is happening, right? So we talked about service businesses during COVID and how the ones that pivoted to the online space and showed up when others went into hiding grew exponentially, myself included. If I were to talk, well, before I talk about myself, that also reminds me that in the 1930s, during the Great Depression, I want to say it was Madam C.J. Walker that became a self made millionaire selling one item. It was hair growth pomade, okay? During a time when people had absolutely nothing. Okay. We have no excuses over here in this corner of the internet, period. In my situation, my life has been one big ball of uncertainty, to be totally honest with you. In 2013, I had actually just graduated college. I attempted to start and miserably failed at several businesses. I tried my hand in the travel industry. I had a book rental company. I was in multi-level marketing. I was working a horrible sales gig, barely bringing in $25,000 a year plus commission. Hubby and I got married a year later. That was my high school sweetheart. And we were just two broke kids that decided to just go all in. And so, less than 2 years of us starting a life together, all hell broke loose. We were sustaining enough to make a decent living. So, the Prius I bought was my first full time job. Well, I'll say we weren't making enough because the Prius I bought with my first full time job had to get repoed. Okay. My husband had a criminal justice degree, but that couldn't grant him access to the career that he was working so hard towards. So he struggled to find work. And so by 2017, we hit rock freaking bottom and we became homeless. So we thought it would be a good idea to try and live a nomadic lifestyle to try and save some money. I swear I've done things I never thought I would do being married to this man. But we purchased a 1974 RV that was literally this big. It was as big as a shoebox. And it ended up we ended up going from public park to public park until eventually we found ourselves in my grandmother's backyard. Okay. We had to go back to the drawing board and just start from scratch. And at the time, I was really starting to take my business a lot more serious, but I had no clue what I was doing. I was trying to funnel hack what other people are doing. I would, of course, stay on YouTube University. I would invest in $20 courses here and there that only uncovered a corner of the big picture. And my entire first, I want to say 5 years of attempting this business building thing, I made a total of $5,000. So that was an average of $1,000 a year. Okay. And then something shifted for me. And that shift really happened around 2018, but it really took off around 2020 when the pandemic hit. So after investing in my first mastermind around that time and applying my marketing expertise to social media, a freaking light bulb went off. So for me personally, I had to stop chasing my idea of who I thought would buy my stuff and start attracting my perfect payers in a way that really felt perfectly in alignment. Because now I was starting to tap into their internal buying triggers as soon as they saw me. So after I attracted them, I had to have a proven back end client nurture system that gave prospects this warm, fuzzy feeling every time they got an email or a text message from me, or every time they saw my content without me having to be present every time they interacted with me and my brand. Then I had to have a conversion system in place. So when they were ready to buy, they could do it quickly and easily. So when I mastered those engines and I put them on autopilot, that's when my life completely changed. So this is around 2020 up until today, actually. I've been able to quit my 9 to 5 to work fully for myself. We've made over 4 million internally from our team, from Instagram and LinkedIn with less than 20,000 followers. I've been able to hire an amazing team of the most trailblazing women I've ever been blessed to work with. Most of them have been with me since day one, which has been fantastic, like since 2020. So some of them have been with me over 6 years at this point. We have helped thousands of founders to grow their businesses. I've won 2 awards for the work that we do. We've helped founders get to just under $12 million since 2020. And since then, me and hubby kind of retried that nomadic lifestyle, except we both went into trucking, believe it or not. So we were full-time truckers for a little bit. We drove around the entire country. I felt like I was retired, and it's just been the most beautiful freaking blessing of my life. I have to say, the stats say that most businesses flop usually after year 3. And this is due to a lack of funds, poor product market fit, or founder burnout after not seeing significant returns in their businesses. But you haven't yet, right? Or at least you're in this room because you don't want that to be you. I understand that you have a burning desire to make an impact, to live well, to travel when you want, to have more than enough money to be a blessing to others. And if you're like me, to disappear off the grid every now and then while your bills still get paid. While flights still get booked, while memories are still being made. You get it. You get it. I will say that scaling isn't necessarily just about systems, it's about standards. And the moment that your revenue grows, your boundaries, your pricing, and the delivery model have to grow with it. Okay. So, you guys. So, what I want to do is pivot into pulling the panel of trailblazing founders who were once in the same position many of you all are in right now. They had leaks, they were making inconsistent revenue, they were dealing with founder overwhelm, and they decided to install infrastructure. Some of them may still be building infrastructure because it's consistently like it's ever changing. And so we're going to have some real talk around what that looks like. Okay. Let me stop sharing my screen really quickly here. What I'm going to do, let me do this here. I'm going to introduce the folks that we have in the room. I see y'all. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. So the first person, and I'm going to introduce all 3 of you all, and then we're just going to dive right on into conversation if you all don't mind, okay? So the first person we have on the panel is Camille Bailey, who's the founder of Cocopreneur and the Greenwood Plan. And this unapologetic Black business advocate and economic ecosystem builder has helped secure millions in funding, in visibility, and in real estate for underrepresented founders. So I believe that she's a powerhouse community influencer, and she's here locally in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as one of Pittsburgh's top Black leaders. She's led initiatives recognized by Forbes, Business Times, and major regional founders for creating pathways to generational wealth. So we're so excited to have you here. Zara, who we've heard from, who's also one of our fellow founders, is the founder of Sun Agency. And I like to call her a cultural content architect. And she is formally a digital brand strategist. And so she has led campaigns for Apple, Adobe, a puncher, and she's done photography for celebrities like Ari Lennox, Raheem Devon, and other celebrity icons. And so her agency builds more so cultural moments, not just marketing noise. Okay. So I love whenever she speaks because she shows up and she talks about showing up in a market that moves fast and staying unforgettable. And then lastly, but most certainly not leastly, we have the fabulous Yvonne Campos, who is an angel investor as well as the founder of VC fund known as Next Act Fund. And so this powerhouse has invested in over 50 women-led companies. She's built multi-million dollar market research firms, and she was a 20-year chapter chair for the Women Presidents Organization of Pittsburgh. And she knows how real power scales and she knows who's worth betting on. So I am so incredibly excited to have all three of you powerhouses here in the same room. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So the first thing, if you all don't mind, in your own words, tell us just a little bit about your business and what stage of growth you all are currently in. Sure. Listen. This is an intimate space, and so we're having real talk conversation. So I want you all to imagine we're just at a big old PJ party at this fabulous mansion, and we're sipping around and we're having some cocktails and we're just
I
having
wish
some real
we
talk.
were.
Okay.
I wish we were.
Yeah,
That's what
I'll keep sipping my coffee as I was. So but I'm Camille Bailey, founder of Cocopreneur, co-founder of the Greenwood Plan. The stage I am in business now, it's really a reignition of the Cocopreneur work. So Cocopreneur was technically founded in 2018, but the work started in 2015. And I got diverted to do Greenwood Plan work with a nonprofit and the social good work that we were doing with that. And now I'm at a place where I'm ready to pick up my first baby again. And since October, when deciding to reignite, have really kind of taken off and almost picked up where we left off with the momentum. And it's very exciting to see people still have a need and a want for this work, but it's very motivating to get back in it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Camille. Either Zara or Yvonne, whichever.
Zara, you go ahead.
Appreciate you. So yes, my name is Zara. I am the founder of Sun Agency and Sun Studios. Sun Studios is like the core creative event space that is located in Baltimore, where a lot of local brands, businesses, and artists come to kind of like rent out the space and do various different things there. Whereas Sun Agency, it's an online agency where we focus on real world, like she said, cultural moments and activations, as well as content campaigns with influencers and community creators who have real world pull and influence. And so through that, that's how we bring a different level of brand awareness, a different level of impressions, and then obviously a different level of sales to the tech brands that we serve. So as far as stage of growth, so we literally just had our 5-year mark as far as like our brick and mortar location. And we are coming up on, I want to say 3 years with the agency, but we're really just kind of launching it now in a more intentional way with the help of Air Assistant.
Oh, yay. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I know there were a few wins that you had under your belt, which we may talk about a little bit later on. But thank you so much for sharing that. And then Yvonne.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm happy to be on this panel with my two panelists. Good to see both of you again. Yvonne Campos basically have been around a million years at this point.
I love it.
I just had my 78th birthday last week, guys. So been doing this for a while, but still excited about entrepreneurship and scaling businesses. And if I'm not doing it for myself, I'm helping others do that. I did run a research company for 30 years and sold it and went through every stage you can imagine. Many painful, until, we got better at it and got it right in some places. You're always reinventing yourself anyway. So you're going through the stages over and over and over again. Also did do the WPO chapters, which is a peer-to-peer learning model for women who have businesses over $1 million, and did that for 20 years. And you meet monthly 20 people, 20 women, non-competing businesses, and all you talk about is how do we grow our business. Okay. And then sold my company, and then traveled for 2 years. Hallelujah. Had a great time. And then was approached and recognized a gap in the marketplace about early stage money for women-owned businesses, and decided, not that I knew one thing about that area and never had done, I'd done a little bit of investing, angel investing on my own here and there, very, very little. But I just figured, how hard could it be? A million guys are doing this. How hard could it be? So when decided that we would put together Next Act Fund, which was a women's angel investment fund, and got 57 angel investors to participate. Most of them women. We had a 10% cap on male membership, and most of them women, but also most of them first-time angel investors. That was what was important, because we wanted to teach women how to become angel investors and give them the experience so that they would then step into it independently. And so we've done that. That Next Act Fund is actually 10 years old now. We are no longer investing. We invested all of our dollars and did follow on. So I am basically managing that portfolio at this point. But there's always tons of opportunities out there. Always.
That is fabulous. And listen, I'm so excited because we're going to learn so much today. Okay. Okay, ladies, what would you all say has been the hardest part of growing your business, either so far or just overall in general?
I'm going to say the hardest part is not knowing what you don't know, right? So having an idea or a passion and wanting to execute on it, but not being 100% certain what that looks like, and not sure like what the shadows hold. So, knowing that you want to do the thing and that you have skills and talents, but maybe not knowing what the systems that you're operating in look like, right? So just kind of like building the plane as you go. That's a hard place to be.
It is. And I think for me, that was around 2018, 2019, because I was like, okay, you know how you're at a certain stage where you think, okay, I believe I know what my next step should be. And so you try to get as much access to free resources as you can. And then as you grow, you start to realize I have to pay for access to get into certain rooms that will allow me proximity of information, proximity of resources, proximity of essentially being able to collapse time between where I think I want to go and me actually getting there. So I was, oh my gosh, I can totally relate.
Yeah, I guess learning what it means when people say it takes money to make money, right? Like what the investments are that come with it. Mm-hmm.
That piece. Zara, go ahead.
It has been like the being like a solopreneur at times, having to do every single thing myself. I think when you're in the beginning, you're just running off of sheer like adrenaline and motivation and excitement for what you're doing, that it's like, oh my gosh, like the thing about entrepreneurs, we're problem solvers, right? Like we introduce our product to the world, and then for a certain demographic, it solves a problem. And a lot of times we invent these things because we have not seen them before. Or even if it's an established thing like virtual assistants or doula work or anything like that, it may be an established thing, but nobody can do it like you do it. Or there's a piece of it that's missing, like a level of customer service or affordability or whatever. And so when we introduce these things to the world, we're often just excited about it because this is what we do, this is what we know, this is what we love, and we know other people are going to love it. But then when you find out, okay, so I got to be the email campaign specialist, and I got to be the bookkeeper, and I got to be the manager, and I got to be the HR department. I'm the marketing department. I'm the CMO. I'm the CFO. I'm the CEO. I'm all to everything. I'm the financial department, and you know what I mean. It just gets to be a lot. It starts to suck the creativity out of things. It starts to suck the fun out of things, and at times your to-do list can get so long that you can feel like, I don't want to say what's the point, but you start to be in a state of survival mode. And I found that creativity and survival mode, they don't exist in the same space at the same time. And like you said, when you were talking about all these ideas have lived in your notes app forever, oh my gosh, that's the story of my life. Like I can literally go in my notes app and be like, oh snap, I wrote this down 5 years ago. We still haven't executed on it. But now the transformation I will say is like starting Q4 of last year, I have noticed now that like my air assistant has been able to take off so many things from my plate. I'm looking at some of the notes now and I'm like, dang, like we did that this year, or, oh my gosh, we finally have the bandwidth, or we finally have the time or the tools or whatever is needed to actually be able to execute on those ideas. So that's been gratifying. But it also has statistically for me always been the hardest part is wearing all the hats and every hat at all times.
I love that. I love that and could not agree more. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. And so, well, I agree completely with both my colleagues here, but I think, and it's the same, it doesn't matter. I mean, I started my business in 1975. So, I mean, you know, that's a long time ago, my original business. Doing business is different, but the problems are the same. The problems are exactly the same. You have different tools, that's all. And the biggest obstacle was always access to capital, having enough money to do the things you want to do, even paying for air assistant, even paying for the second person to join the company, even salaries, even equipment, even technology, so on and so forth. It was always really a struggle to have the capital to do that because you need capital to grow. And then the other is finding the right people. Nowadays, it's much more flexible in finding the right people, whether they are with you, have to come to the office every day. That's how mine was 100 years ago. But nowadays, it's still the same problem of finding the right people to fit the right job. Whether you contract that out, whether you coordinate with someone and do some sort of collaboration, whatever it is, it's finding the right people for the right jobs. And what happens is exactly what Zara says, is you're doing everything. But then what really happens is you get used to doing everything. And then you do not want to delegate. And the only way to grow is to delegate, because you can't do it all and you can't be everywhere at one time. And I also discovered if you're either executing or you're selling when you're really small. You can't do both at the same time, or it's very difficult to do both. So your financials look like this because you're selling, you get stuff, then you're executing, no selling's going on, you're selling stuff, then executing, because you don't have a big enough team to do that. But all of those problems are the same. And I think it doesn't matter what kind of business you're in, you are facing those at some level or another. But I will say my biggest mistake in the beginning was not thinking big enough. Not thinking big enough. Kind of just sort of letting it happen and trying to keep up with it, versus actually planning the growth and looking at 5 years, I want to be here, 10. I always had a vision of where I wanted to be, but not the plan as well as it could have been.
Oh my gosh, that was powerful. Y'all, that was so powerful. Because I went through those things as well. And when you first get started, I think yesterday we were touching base on when you do start to delegate, having systems in place prior to team members coming on, so that you're not trying to scramble and figure out the things and then ultimately end up neglecting, the people that you have on the team, or you're not able to articulate exactly what it is that you need that person to do so that they own outcomes instead of just doing tasks that actually have nothing to do with moving the needle forward in your business. So, oh my gosh, that was awesome. Thank you all so much for that. So what do you all think is the biggest thing that holds founders back from scaling?
I personally think it's delegation. I personally think that I think there's a lot of opportunity and you can solve a lot of problems, but if you are, and I do know, this is based on my WPO experience with a lot of women business owners, and even at $1 million, they want to hold on to too much. They don't want to delegate. They just get used to it. You get used to knowing every little detail that's going on in the business. And actually, you don't really need to know every little detail that's going on in the business. You need to have people that know what's going on in the business. And so, so I think that's a big problem. And I have, even at the women with $1 million business, that say they want to delegate and understand you're supposed to delegate and all that kind of stuff, but they won't do it. They just literally cannot do it or won't do it or choose not to do it.
And the thing is, because we have a lot of perfectionists in the room, FYI.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Okay. We have a lot of procrastinating perfectionists.
I don't know if it's perfectionism, Nanny, or is it you want it done your way?
Yes.
And
absolutely.
no one can do it your way. They can do a
Exactly.
great job and they can do a fantastic, make it fantastic, but it's not going to be exactly how you do it. So it's about letting that idea go.
That's so
I'll tell you
true.
this,
Somebody
as a non-perfectionist,
Good. You're way
Right.
ahead of the game.
as a non-perfectionist, I still have a problem with delegating, but mostly because I don't have systems. And what you mentioned earlier about like not wanting to bring people in and have them scramble, I have a fear of bringing people in and not giving them enough support to do the job that I want them to do. So mine is a matter of delegating, but it's mostly because I'm not ready to delegate. I'm not ready to give people more. Like, I know that I'm a founder. I can take on a lot of different obstacles that might come up. But for somebody I'm hiring, they're here to do one job. And if I'm like, hey, can you also do this couple extra things? They're like, I didn't sign up for that. So you might find the right people, but fumble them because you don't have the right systems in place. So, mine is also delegating. You know what I mean? But it's because I don't have the right systems.
Yeah. That was super.
Go ahead, Sal. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, Camille, that's actually super powerful. Like, it's almost like, even what Yvonne was saying about, good people are hard to find, but sometimes you do stumble upon those good people and you are blessed to have them on your team, but because you didn't have a proper structure to hold them in, you fumble them. It's almost like we all know the stereotype of the brother that had the good woman and then he fumbled her because he just wasn't ready at the time. He was still running the streets and doing his thing. He didn't have it together. And then, 40 years down the line, he's like, I know I wasn't the best to you. You got it. It's like, you don't want to be that. You don't want to be that as a business owner. Like, you have good people, but because you don't have a structure to hold them, you're not getting the best out of them. I'm weak. Laura is in the chat. I love the participation.
I think, go ahead. I thought you were done.
Oh, just real quick. Because the question about like what's been the hardest part, I think, yes, definitely delegation, but also just like, how do I put it? Those systems, because a lot of times you are the reason why money is getting left on the table, right? Like when you started whatever business you're in, you did your research. There's a market for whatever it is that you're selling. You know what I'm saying? You know what you could be making. You've probably even seen your competitors or people you admire make it at a certain level. And then you get down and you do it and you looking at your Stripe account or your PayPal account or whatever, and the math ain't math. Math ain't math. You open up your bank account, it's a cough noise. What's going on? But a lot of times you are your own bottleneck. So that's definitely been true for me. But I think like I have such a philosophy going into business since I started so young that, okay, now's the time to take risks. Like if I'm going to take risks, I might as well do it now before I got kids and a husband and all that stuff. If I'm going to do some crazy stuff, let me do it while I'm just on my oon, so I'm not ending up everybody else's life.
You still will. You still will.
Listen, but now that I'm in a phase where I'm like, okay, I've taken all the risks, I've tried all the crazy things. Now I know what works, I know what sells, and now I just need to maintain it and grow it. And you can't do that without proper delegation, and you can't do that without proper systems. It's just not going to happen for you. You're going to build a big tower, and then when the wind comes and the flood comes, it's going to get knocked down because the foundation was never set.
Mm-hmm. And I think another thing is a fear of success. And we'll talk about that too, because I have found is that speed is your best friend when you are money loves speed. Mm-hmm. Meaning, and I actually had a conversation with one of our elite clients that closed his very first $250,000 client after 20-ish years in the travel industry. And he was like, well, I'm trying to focus on creating these travel packages for these high level male executives to travel in the Middle East. What's happening in the Middle East? A lot of crazy stuff right now, right? So he has to pivot quickly, and he also has to make sure that he's building relationships so that everything is running nice and smooth for this guy who was ready to commit $250,000 to his concierge, to his travel concierge service. And so he's asking questions like, well, getting contracts together and getting this and that. Guess what? Speed is going to be your best friend. And usually you figure things out. As long as you're focusing on taking massive imperfect action, you figure things out. And even the times that you do fumble, because you will fumble, right? It allows you to be able to gather data faster than everybody else, to get to the point where, just like Zara mentioned, you know what works and you know what doesn't, and you're able to execute so much faster. So by the time somebody has thought about getting ready to take their first swing, you've already taken 13, and now you're batting home runs like it's nothing. That's the difference. Well, I just need to say that. But Yvonne, yes, please.
No, I agree with the well, it's that fail faster, right? That the concept of failing faster. It's basically was more articulated in the tech industry. That's what the business really is, to fail faster. But I guess one of the things I can tell you from my experience only. That's what I can share. My experience was in hiring people. I never hired someone that could do only one job. And if they were going to join me in the beginning, I really set the stage for what the environment was like, which we all do everything and we all have to participate. In other words, I'm not hiring you just to do this one job. I'm hiring you to be part of this company. What I could sell was the vision of the company, because I couldn't pay great. I couldn't pay competitively sometimes. I couldn't, didn't have the best offices and environments and free coffee, whatever, free lunch and all that stuff. But I could sell them on the vision of where we were going and what role they could play. And some of these people were overqualified for the job that they started with. But it's always better to hire people a little bit better, because they can help you grow and take on more responsibility. So let me assure you, I did my share of hiring the wrong people at the wrong time and blah, blah, blah. But it really, you can't not let them be part of the company and part of the problem solving. If you don't have the system, tell them, you and I are going to build that system, so it's going to be better. Right. Not that I'm going to have a nice little system for you all set up so that you can come in and join me. No, that never works. I've never seen that work. That's my 2 cents.
That is it. That reminds me, because my team will tell you, we say all the time, we fly. We got the wrong system.
Well,
and so, yeah,
I was going to say, Nani, what happened to me is I got very fortunate too. I hired some people that had the skills to build those. Hallelujah, because that is not my strength. And so hired that person, and then we had hired some more people that had that same kind of mindset of operational excellence, and we built it internally. That's how we did it. I certainly was not the person leading that. Okay,
absolutely.
I found that operations is the most important number 2. Like the having an operations person is probably
absolutely
the most important hire that you'll have.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more, y'all. Okay, what would you say changed the most in your business once you started building real systems or getting real support? What did you notice? Yes, ma'am.
earning month was that first month when we opened. There was like upper months. There's a new income stream, this new business, it's doing well. But then over the course of time, what I noticed is like slowly the Stripe account is like, it's having its peaks and valleys, but the overall trend was it was going down. And I was actually at the point where I was ready to sell my business. Like I was at a point where I was like, I still do know this is a good idea. I still do know this can generate multiple six figures, but it's just not. And I don't even have the mental capacity to keep doing it at the level that I'm doing it. Being the social media person, being the financial analyst, being all these different things. Like it just, like I said, survival and chaos and creativity, they don't live in the same place. They don't. And so being the visionary that I am, having the big ideas that I had, it wasn't like, oh, these ideas are impossible or anything. I was just like, I just don't have the resources to support them. And it's just not going to happen for me. And I was ready to call it quits. I'm not going to lie. And it was like night and day, simply activating the network that I already had, simply activating the customer base I already had, simply activating the contacts I already had. We were able to make a huge jump, an 88% jump in revenue from the time that my air assistant was onboarded to like the first month, really. And that was just off of activating what we already had. That wasn't even new leads. That wasn't new clients. That wasn't new people. It was just an activation of what already existed inside the business. Hey, let's do an email list. Let's do some email blasts. Let's do an activation. Let's start this. Let's start that. And it was just night and day. And now my assistant, there's SOPs, there's systems where she follows up with clients if we haven't seen them in a while, or if they booked with us, like how can we nurture them and make sure they have a top 10 out of 10 experience. You know, our clients value communication and high touch. So the fact that we're able to implement that, before it's like, I'm too busy delivering the product, I can't talk to you all the time, you know? So now to have a person that's talking to them, it's the difference between our studio and other studios. It's the difference between our business and other businesses or other agencies, you know, because there's a million agencies, there's a million of what we all do, but what separates you? And customer service is a huge one, right? So to have someone that's versed on customer service and easy to work with and understands instruction and is already pre-trained on so many of the softwares that we use, oh my gosh, that was another thing. Like having like what so you don't get the best out of them. Like what I've noticed with my air assistant, she already came trained on how to manage an email inbox, on how to invoice, how to do various different things that she does. And so I didn't even have to waste time training her or like hoping it would work or pre-vetting or anything like that. It was just really it came down to like a personality fit. And I'm so happy with the one that I chose. And when, you know what I'm saying, when our client base grows even more, I definitely want to get a second one. But yeah, I would say that's been, I guess, the biggest transformation. Was that the question, or the biggest thing that I've noticed since implementing systems is, and smoother operations. So I can actually focus on little things that I couldn't do before. I know all of us have had a sink full of dishes at some point, right? Because we was too busy taking care of clients. I'll get to it tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I could finally do the dishes. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't able to do that before.
I love that. And I think the biggest thing I'm more excited about, because, okay. Yes, I love systems. Yes, we train internally, et cetera, et cetera. I think the thing that really makes me so excited about you all, significantly higher than you've been charging, and you have those higher level conversations, and you start closing those clients at the 5 and the 6 figure rate, and you never freaking go back. It just unlocks something totally different, you know.
It's a confidence boost.
Yeah. I remember when you dropped your message about having a conversation. I was like, that piece.
Yeah.
That piece.
Yeah, it's a huge mindset shift, because when you're used to delivering $100 here product, $1,000 here product, like you are still in like a wage type of mindset. You are still trading time for money. So you're effectively trading your life for money. And so everything will always feel expensive to you when you're trading time for money. You know, but when you trading value for money or start, trading transformations for money, you have so much more freedom. And it is a huge confidence and competence booster, because when you're charging certain rates, you only attract people who are specifically looking for your level of expertise and skill. And if you're in this room and you offer a high level of expertise and skill, why would you undercharge? So many times too, and I tell my clients this even, like what I notice about a lot of business owners, especially in my particular spaces, we're like heart first, creativity for an empty cup. I know we all want to help people, but how can you help people when you haven't even helped yourself?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do philanthropic work, do philanthropic work, but you'll need to fund that with the money you make from your business. And you can still help people through your business, but you don't have to undercharge for it.
Yep. Oh my gosh, chill. Yvonne, did you have anything you wanted to
hear? One phrase that Sarah said, and Sarah, I know exactly what you're on. I wanted to sell my company 50 million times.
Last year I was like, hey.
But let me say one thing. We don't want to sell at the low. We want to sell at the high. But everybody wants to sell when it gets hard because it's no fun anymore and we're struggling and trying to find every penny. When it's going great, which is about 15 minutes here and there, when it's going great, when it's going great, we're like, oh, this is fun. This is good. Everything's going on all cylinders. We don't want to sell then. That's exactly when you want to sell. Okay.
Coming from
so that's a big problem. It's not getting through that period. So because what kind of value you're going to get for your money when you're at your low point, right? That's all that works.
Oh my God.
So that would be it.
Yeah,
I'm keeping that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we all feel that way. When it's really hard, we all say, oh my God, why am I doing this? I need to get out of this, right?
I think I can recognize the difference. Yeah, I can recognize the difference from when I'm backsliding into those early entrepreneurial days. It's like last night I had to catch myself because it was like, this is not what we doing.
You don't have to. You don't have to anymore.
Right. We're not, this is not where we are, right? Like these problems can wait till tomorrow and then we can delegate, right? Like instead of trying to sit there and do it yourself because you can or you have, I can now recognize when I'm backsliding into bad habits, right? So knowing what it's like to have the good habits, the good systems, and what those are like, and noticing when you're starting to like backtrack into bad habits, that's value, right? Like, because we, depending on how you grow up, what your experiences have been, you may be preconditioned to do certain things a certain way, fight or flight, right? You might just be conditioned to do. Once you know better, you do better, right? So you can recognize when you're starting to slip back into old ways. And literally last night, it was and it was something around finances, right? Cindy put in there, tax time is coming up, and I was like, this don't look right. I gotta review what all of this stuff is. So, I was like, nope, tomorrow I will send it off to the person who actually does this for a living and can look through my things for me. But it was like just knowing when you are getting into bad systems and bad habits or backsliding is super helpful.
Oh my gosh.
I will say, Nani, that one of the hardest areas, especially when Zara was talking, and I know we've all been this, Camille's been through this, anybody in business been there, is a lot of times what you're supposed to be doing, especially with follow-up with your current clients and your current networks and so forth. And you don't really, that's one of the sales and marketing, they're different things, but they're always complementary. That is a weakness. That's a weak link in almost every business. Maybe less so now because of technology, but I think technology just shows it up worse, actually, sometimes, because you have the technology to be able to do it, and we're still not doing it well. And so with current clients and prospects and networking, that if we had systems in place that really worked, which was the follow-up, and we were consistent with that? Or did you find somebody to hire that they loved that process and would follow that process and so on? That was one of our biggest weaknesses throughout the compost era, compost research era.
Oh, wow. No, that is super powerful. And I think that goes into next question. If you could go back to an earlier version of yourself as a founder, what advice would you give?
I love this.
Run.
She said run.
Really let this question marinate for a second.
I know. I think so. As soon as I typed this up, I said, okay, the advice I would give to myself, to the 2017 version of me, would be to start selling high. Start selling high. Start high. Start with the ROI based pricing. Start with my skill set. If a company is willing to pay me $50,000 to $80,000 a year for my expertise, that means that the ROI bringing into that company is at least 3 times as much, And so that would be the advice that I would give to myself, is to start going for the big sharks that have budgets and relentlessly pursue them, because for the same amount of work, that it would take for me to attract a lead, get them on a call and talk to them about a $397 offer, the same amount of effort can be used for me to attract a lead, get them on a call and talk to them about a $130,000 offer. That would be the piece of advice that I would give.
I think
to myself.
I love that relates to that think bigger that I said early on, right from the very beginning. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, yeah, I love what you said. Nani. I think I would have similar advice. I would also tell myself to invest in myself earlier. Like the money that I started out with, I invested it all into construction of the space. And I think that's great. And like I said, I learned almost like tried by fire. Like I learned through the trials of business. I learned by busting my butt cheeks, if you will, so to speak. In business. And that's how I learned. But I think I could have saved myself a whole lot of tears, a whole lot of heartaches, a whole lot of all-nighters, a whole lot of stressful moments had I just invested in mentorship and learning and like something, even if it was, like you said, like the little $20 course that unraveled a corner. I think me being a very coachable person, I think I would have taken that and been like, wait, okay, so next to that dot, but what about this dot? And I would have researched more. And I think YouTube University, it can teach you a lot, your Myron Goldens and people like that, feeding yourself information like that, maybe as opposed to like some music or something that can get you to a certain level. But what I realized too is like business is a competition, whether you want to admit it or not. And when there's competition, there are winners and there are losers. And sometimes your competition might not be your market competitor. It might just be statistics. Most businesses close after a year, 2 years, 5 years, right? Time might be your competition. So these things, you have to win against them. You have to beat them. And you can't do that without intentionality and strategy and knowledge. A lot of times our biggest liability is what we don't know. So sometimes, like Camille was saying, you don't know what you don't know. And then once you start figuring it out, you realize how much you really just don't know. There's still a lot I just don't know. But I want to learn though, and I want to get better so that I can win against all my competitors, whether that be other businesses offering us an is. So yeah, I would have definitely told my younger self move more intentionally and not waste a bunch of money, time, and energy and like heart in because
you're investing in the build out. And you're either investing time, right, or you're investing money. It's one of the two things. And usually when you invest money, we have to make sure that we're investing in assets that's going to build up and bring us more money into the business. And a lot of times that intellectual build out is one of the biggest ways to be able to do that, because it literally collapses your time. It collapses so much time.
Yeah. Just I love to add to that. If you meet someone like a Myron Golden or a Nani, for example. And Nani has already spent 10 years making the mistake. And she invested and the $400,000, like she already did it for you. Literally, she already, why don't you just leverage her investment, you know, and then pay her? You just save yourself 400, like literally, like even the creatives and stuff that I mentor, like leverage all of my mistakes and leverage all of my wins. And what took me 15 years to figure out, or 10 years to figure out, in and of itself, when everyone's like, might as well put it to good use. You know what I'm saying? Help some people and allow others to help you too.
I love that.
You have said so much. It's a part of what you said earlier too, is speaking to me in my own personal position, where you're saying everybody is competition, and I'm always like competition, but I am competing for like people's mental space, right? So there is this other thing, they can't do what I do, but even by virtue of them being mentioned, is placing them in the same thought as me.
Yes.
Can't do it. Got to beat them out, right? So it's like, yeah, I do have my own personal like sauce that I bring. I have a very special heart that I bring to the work that a lot of other people don't. People need to know that. I need to keep repeating it. They need to keep saying it, and they need to remember it forever, right? So that was super helpful. The thing that I thought about,
it was the if you had to, you had to go back to an earlier version of the founder. Yep. What advice would you give?
Develop and document system. I started my business with children and a man, right? Like I started my business having and while I had a very understanding partner who, you know, while he had tough times or he was like, what's going on? He also was just very understanding of what I needed to do and all of the ways I needed to be fluid to do what I did, but I still had children. So while he may have been okay missing out and lacking the attention, I can't lack like a children. So if I could develop my systems and processes on that I could have more, that's the thing that I would have done differently in the beginning.
I love that. Yvonne.
I can empathize and identify with the one good thing about being an entrepreneur and owning my own, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I was one of those that would bring a set. I'm still working like a maniac, you know. So my daughters are grown, 44 and 45 at this point. I was a single parent doing a business, and I won't get that award, but I that I think my doing right at the same time. Your business is screaming, your kids are screaming. I didn't have a partner, but other things were screaming. My parents got sick, you know, this and that. Yeah, very, very difficult. But I think that, and also what I learned is many women, I think people in general, women in particular, you start a business doing the things you love because you're really good at something and you love to do it, you know, whatever that might be. But that really isn't what you don't do that thing anymore. Other people are doing that thing and you're running the business and are moving forward, hopefully, and what you love the whole time. You have to fall in love with being a business. and you can't do it alone, absolutely. As soon as you can find no decision is a final decision, you can always change it. You can always, but I can't think of anything more satisfying than.
I love that, y'all. And for those who don't know, I'm 8 months pregnant. Okay, so this is forcing me, like the very first little bambino. What I'm saying, like I can't check my Slack messages at 6 o'clock in the morning and all throughout the day, in the middle of the night anymore. I can't be perpetually available to meet with my team members when they have a question, etc. Have all the people in place. We have all the systems in place, but again, that perfectionist, because you're the person that knows every nuance of your business. You're the person that has already worn all the hats. You're the person that can already do all the things, and you have to trust that even if they're not going to do it, it's transferring that trust after you've chosen to work with people who are invested in the vision. Is transferring that trust to say, you guys got it. Y'all got it. You know, oh man, but it's and I don't want to come back to a burning building, and I won't because my team's amazing, but it's still anxiety, attached to a new milestone. So I just wanted to share that. I had to share that.
Well, it's exciting, and congratulations on your
thank you,
baby.
Thank you. Okay, last question, and then we'll pivot into our last little section of day 3. What does scaling actually mean to you personally?
Mine is only about time. It's going to be a goal for my life, right? So 20 months ago. And at that same time, we relocated to a different city. And while I still run, none of us are from Pittsburgh, so we built community, we built businesses, we built the life that I'm in personally. Has moved me to be more connected to family. I've always been about family. I've always been the person in my family who people and I am those things. So for me, scale looks like making myself more available for those things. Being the Thanksgiving house, right? Like Thanksgiving is at my and making myself available to do that both time-wise and financially. Do you need me to bring anything? I actually don't need you to bring anything. We got it. This is us hosting, right? This is us carrying and holding our family and being a pillar. Like my husband and myself are both kind of like these really strong anchors for our families, both separately and together. And scaling for me means that we can do those things. We can have the big house. We can host the family gatherings. We can be the people that folks call on when they do need extra support. Like we can be crutches for other folks when they need it. Scaling means being able to provide those things. Providing more money, freeing up my time.
I love that you mentioned that. And I think if I were to parallel that, because it does feel so good to be a blessing to other people. And for me, it's having the time availability to be around the people that make my soul sing while not having to worry about the financials. Like if I check my Honeybook account and this is cha-ching, you got a payment today, and I'm chilling at my mom's house, I'm chilling at my mom's house and with a drink. Well, not anymore. Not
at the moment.
Taking it at mom's house, and because she's the only person that does my hair. I live in Pennsylvania. She lives in Virginia, so I'll travel 7.5 hours for her to do my hair and pay her full rate. Mom, how much do you charge? 65. Ma'am, that's not enough. That's not enough. I'm going to give you your full. I'm going to pay you 80, pay you 90, pay you 100, and feel good about that, you know? And so no, I totally agree. It's literally being fully present while having built something that can fully run without you needing to be the bottleneck.
Right. And it could be a personal thing too, right? Like where not personal as in my life, but who I am. I don't need to make all the decisions. I'm good, actually. I know that I have ideas and I have what I see as solutions for, my community and what's around me, but I don't have to be the person to execute it. Like, I'm okay with letting go of that. I don't even necessarily need the credit. I just need it to exist. I also need to be compensated fairly for the contributions that I've made. So, that I think that it's really going to, and like we're headed toward that direction, right? Where building this thing, freeing up the time. Like I'm home when my kids come home from school. That's important to me. If the daycare calls and I need to pick my baby up, it's not a problem, right? That just feels really close to freedom for me. And I think that is like being able to do that more without worrying about what's going to happen with the business is what scale is for me.
Felt.
Yeah.
Okay, who else?
I think for me.
Oh, okay. Roselle.
Like that.
No, I'm sorry. No, because we have panelists, and I was.
That's a great thing, right?
Fabulous ladies, but listen, we're all ears, darling.
Well, and then I keep my camera off because if y'all see how much stuff I be in here doing, I don't want to distract people. I was just I made a smoothie. I was on the Step Master, all kind of crazy stuff, and that's why I keep the camera off. But I was listening, and I want to say congratulations, Nani, on your first baby.
Thank you.
My first baby is 28. And my last baby right now is 18. He'll be graduating this year in May. And when we talk about scaling, everything you young mothers are sharing, I'm seasoned now and I have 2 grandkids. Everything you're sharing about wanting this early while your kids are young, I'm just now experiencing it while my last baby is 18. And I wanted to say with my air assistant, this is the first time in all of my years of entrepreneurship where I did not plan to take a loss or a hit when I take a vacation. So next week, yes. And I love her. I love Karen. So I'm like, I just love her so much. Please don't ever leave me. But with her help and with the systems, everything that y'all are saying, I'm experiencing it in my life. Like it's later in my journey, but in my life. But it's also right on time because, like I said, I was able to plan to be away and not see a dip in my finances or not see a dip in my business revenue while I'm away. And it allowed me to upgrade us to the penthouse on this cruise that we're going.
Hello.
With the 24-hour butler. And I said, like sometimes we feel like we're late. And when we have a great vision, we get frustrated and we feel like, I wish I was there. But I would say like Miss Yvonne said, everything's always screaming. Everything's always screaming. So it is very important to continue to want what you want for yourself because it will show up. And it's not late. It's right on time for my 18-year-old. And I know when he gets to the cabin and sees like I've decorated with senior year and congratulations, and the butler walks him in the room.
All right.
It just makes it feel like what we're doing is worth it. And it's hard work.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, and congrats, girl, with the graduating child and the cruise, the penthouse room.
The penthouse on the cruise, yeah.
Come on now. Come on.
Wait, Roselle, look, my husband's 40th birthday is in May. I said, we going to LA and we flying first class.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, he's from like a blue collar family, right? Parents worked at the post office for 30 years and they're used to very modest. I mean, middle class living, but still being reasonable. I don't give a damn about reason.
Nuh-uh.
Reason? What is that?
I want everything.
We work really hard, right? Like, we deserve the comforts that come with this lifetime. And I think it's so important. And not all of us are Black women here, but for Black women in particular, there is a very deep-seated epigenetic need for us to be comfortable. And any opportunity that we get to do that, we should take it. It's going to heal something in you.
Yes.
Right? It's going to heal something in your babies to be able to experience that level of comfort.
Yes.
Right? And it's going to encourage them to do more because I deserve to have these things.
And it was very intentional, just like what you said. My son, he wants to be a computer engineer, and that's where he's like, he has been a straight A student his entire life. And I wanted him to see what, just like you said, what that level of lifestyle looks like. I've always, I'm from New Orleans. My mom dropped out of school in the 8th grade. She had 3 kids by the time she had me. And then I had my first baby at 16, like a cycle trying to start it, like a cycle that was trying to repeat itself, but hence it didn't. But it's very important that we show, and just like you said, not just Black women, but it's very intentional to show, I believe, to show the next generation what they should strive to be, right? Because they have to see it so that they can know that it's possible. I've always wanted to spend money, like you said, to be comfortable, to show them that there's other things other than what we see on the surface. There's other things that you can achieve to be. Yeah.
There is a thrival that happens beyond survival.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we're working towards, right?
Yes.
And this is what we can have. It's, it's within our reach because we're doing it already, right? Now let's do more.
That piece, y'all. Oh man, thank y'all so much for sharing that. And Roselle, thank you. Thank you. That's going to be added to our brag bank. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
okay,
I was Zara? I was telling, I met with my air assistant this morning, and I was talking about what I wanted for the plan while I'm out. And I said to myself, I said, girl, you like a CEO over here. Okay. Like, in Zara mentioned, she said, like you have to pay for like transformation. Like, it's a transformation that happens, while we're walking on this journey. So I noticed one in myself today when I was having that meeting to discuss what I wanted done while I was away, whereas normally I would have shut everything down to be away. But this is a beautiful, I would say, a journey.
Good for you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank y'all so much for sharing that.
Thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You got it. Okay, we'll have Zara and then Yvonne, and then we'll pivot to the next part because this was just fabulous, y'all. This was fabulous.
Yes. I love what the ladies said about being able to invest in your own comfort. That I'm big on that. I'm big on self-care, and admittedly, me also being a little bit of a workaholic. Like, I don't have a problem with the hard work, but what I can do sometimes is I can sacrifice that self-care and that self-love to work. Like, the moment I get up, I haven't even checked in with myself. I haven't even done any sort of deep breathing. I haven't, gotten any sunlight, and I'm straight to the computer. Like, what does that do for your nervous system? So to answer the question specifically about what does scaling mean, I think it means just getting to where you're going faster, and more effectively and more sustainably. So even like what Roselle was saying about being able to go on vacation and not having to shut everything down, being able to trust your team that they're competent enough to have it when you're pregnant or when you're postpartum, that is what not only scaling, but just success looks like for me, because I one day be a mother. I one day would like to be pregnant and postpartum, and I do not want to have to be focused on running a business and the business will crash and burn without me if I get pregnant. Or God forbid, for the ladies in here who have no desire to get pregnant, or maybe that ship has sailed. What about when you're sick? You know what I'm saying? Does the business now have to shut down because you are sick? And that's going to happen. All these different diseases they got out now. The diseases ain't the diseases from back in the day. They different now. They different. They coming for you. So God forbid you get sick or something like that, or you break a bone or something like that, does your business now have to stop? Does life now have to stop? Do you now have to fall behind on all your bills? Because that has happened to me before I had these systems. That has actually happened to me. I nearly lost my business in that period. And I remember telling my landlord that I was in and out of the hospital. I was having various different problems. And he said, and I quote, "I don't care. I need my money," and hung up on me. He did not care. Life is harsh like that, right? So life can be harsh like that. We all have had our little moments. So when those moments come, how shielded are you against them, right? And it goes back to what I said. We all want to help other people, but like, how have we helped ourselves? Even something, I actually got this from Nani, like being able to be intentional about your self-care. Like something as simple as a massage, right? If you feel like, oh, if I leave for 90 minutes to get a massage, my whole business is going to crash and burn, there's a problem there. There's a problem there, right? But you show up as your best self when you're showing up full, when you're showing up whole, when you're showing up well-rested, when you're showing up with a creative mind, right? And a visionary mind and a strategic mind. So I think scaling just looks like being able to get to where you're going effectively, quickly, and sustainably. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Laura. Oh, girl. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
For me, yes, I think all of that is true, and the sooner it comes, the better. No question about it. I was fortunate during my experience as an entrepreneur with a company for 30 years that I was able to be away at different times. Not in the beginning, I have to say, not in the beginning. Maybe like it's more possible to do that earlier than I was able to do it in my process. But I took, a month off to go to Mexico during my tenure as a CEO. I was actually sick for about a year, and the company was run, and I didn't have to think about it for a full year, other than touch base periodically. So things like that I was able to do, but only because I had not as fast as maybe I could have, but they were in place by the time I needed to be able to do things like that. So that is good. So for me, scaling is really, we all win. Everybody involved in the equation wins. Scaling leads to that, and freedom. And for me, in my stage right now, I'm at the not the tail end. I still got a few years left.
Right.
But my point is, I am living the best life I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
It has gotten better and better and better and better. Mainly because I've had some accomplishments. I've contributed to other individuals. I have resources. I have I have 2 daughters and a wonderful grandbaby. All of that. So at the end of the path, and there's different levels. You can have this at different levels, but it really is about we all win, and you have freedom and resources at the end to live a life, to continue to live a life where you can contribute.
Yeah. And Yvonne, you're familiar with me, right? But
yes, ma'am.
Everybody winning, that speaks to my heart.
Yes,
I feel like, you know what I mean? Like I'm so hell bent on being the crutch for people, but what if I don't have to be a crutch because people around me are good?
Yes. Everybody wins,
Yeah.
I used to feel so much pressure, like I can't let this company go under. I have employees. They're counting on me to pay them. Their paycheck is paying for their kids to eat. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But because you do have those responsibilities, and so scaling, everybody wins in that scenario. You create more jobs. You take care of the that you already have on your payroll. It really does make a huge difference, and it cares for you. This self-care is more of a, yes, we should have been doing this all along, but it is sort of a more recent. I got into that too much at one point. But it is, I think the sooner we get that message of self-care.
Reading a book. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
do this thing, whew, it's better to just do it this way. It's better to scale and do it the right way, because, sickness comes, the pandemic came, so many things happen in life that are unpredictable, and we can't carry everybody on our backs. So we have to figure out how to put the systems in place, because it can be the difference between life and death. It literally can. You know what I mean? I thank you so much, Nani, for going and getting this information and bringing it back to us, because, it's not something that everybody has access to. And one of the things that I have to say is, I think a block for many of us is that guilt. We were the ones that did well and we excelled, and we were the ones that could go to the next level, tertiary, and get the education. And there's so many people who will look back and we're like, this cannot be fair. And that is where our money guilt comes from, where we don't want to raise our prices, where we don't want to work with the clients that can pay us the most, because we're always trying to have these discount rates. We're always trying to be accessible. We want to work for free. We want to give away our time, our talents, and our resources. And it puts you in a corner eventually. And the thing that really shifted for me yesterday was listening to Nani tell her story again about the work that she had to do and the vision that she had to hold on to and the transformation. And that's what we have to give people the opportunity to do. Grow and have a transformation as well. And recognize that when we work with people who have done the work to transform, we create space, because nature abhors a vacuum. So as we rise, we create an opportunity for people to also rise, whether it is through inspiration and the various different mechanisms. So I know a lot of persons are stuck at that money and pricing block. And I did a session after your session, clearing money blocks. And I think the two together, God is really working, because I don't know, the two sessions were timed like 15 minutes apart.
Oh, wow.
A huge breakthrough where it just hit me. Yeah, people have to do the work to transform, or they're going to continue to be a nightmare, just like the clients that, Ashley was talking about, where no matter what you do, it's never enough. No matter how much you pour, it's never enough. And you're in their power struggle, versus giving them the space, because what we resist persists. So when you let go of that bull knocking heads, you give them the space to self-reflect and grow, because there are so many people who we are holding back because we're not giving them the opportunity to face their own consequences. So I thank you, Nani, for this breakthrough. I thank you for this work that you're doing. This is godly work. And I can see this business being, I can see you in the next 50 years talking about when you launched back in, when you're, when you're heading toward your 78. And Yvonne, thank you so much. You had me here laughing. I laughed just like Nani. So we were both in here screaming. Just like that. I was in here laughing up, because it's true. This is a spiritual journey. So it tests us. And each level comes with tests. And the backsliding is a real thing. Going back to the old habits is a real thing. Going back to the old mindsets is a real thing. So, we just have to keep on leveling up, because this is the greatest personal growth journey that there really is.
Oh my God.
You know what they say, right? Like, you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Right.
You can't pour from an empty cup, but also when your cup runneth over.
Hallelujah. That's it.
Exactly
when your sauce are full, you need containers to catch.
And you can give to other people freely.
Amen.
Ladies, let me tell y'all something. Can I clip that? Number one.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Because that literally culminated all the things. That was all the things. Mind you, we still have about a good half hour together. Okay, y'all. You hold on to your horses. But this was amazing. And I literally could not have said any of that.
I
better.
wish you could go in your email list and see how long I've been here resisting this breakthrough that you have been trying to give us. Because I feel like I've been here from your 397 days or something.
Oh yeah, girl. And those days are long gone, thank God.
I feel like I don't know when I came here, but I feel like I've been here, but I've just not been able to internalize the message because I have been so connected to the inequality and the injustice of the money struggle. And honestly, it's easier for people to pull you down than it is for you to try and take this whole thing. It's easier for you to just do the work and grow, and a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yes. And thank y'all. That piece.
Yeah.
Y'all, okay, listen. We could go all day.
I
want to
feel
go
like
all day,
I'm
but
really at this
I can't.
mansion
Yeah, I'm gonna put
party.
my microphone on mute. I'm done talking.
This was amazing, ladies. Thank you all so much. And here's the situation. What you all just heard is the real scaling journey. Every founder eventually reaches a point where the question becomes, well, how do I build the infrastructure that supports the vision that I have for this business? What type of business supports the life and the impact that I want to create? And so I want to thank every founder on this panel, number one, every founder in this room, number two, because what you heard today is that a lot of the founders here started in the same place many of you all are in right now. They had great expertise, strong client results in some cases, big vision in all cases, but the business still depended heavily on their personal effort. And at some point, you all realize something important is that scaling doesn't happen by working harder. It happens when you install infrastructure. So I mentioned we do have another 30-ish minutes together. So if y'all have that time, we're going to rock it out. Okay. Over the last 3 days, we've walked through the full picture. Day one, we diagnosed the leaks that stall growth. Day two, we looked at the engines that power a scaling business. And today, we talked about the standards required to support higher revenue. But there is one more piece, right? Because knowing what to build and actually installing it are two completely different things. And hopefully, what you heard today lit a fire up under you to say, okay, well, what does that next step look like? And that's what we're going to talk about. That's actually what I call the execution gap. Knowing what to do and then not doing it, like Laura was mentioning it, because sometimes if you block yourself, that time and that energy and that effort, you will literally wave opportunities goodbye because you're stalling in so many different ways. And so that's exactly why we built our Scaling CEO Suite, because it's designed to install all the systems that we talked about, as well as the team to execute, which propels results and collapses time to reach your next level of revenue growth. So if you want to know what that's going to look like, for 4 very fortunate scaling CEOs in the room, please type yes in the chat, okay? If the answer is no for you, have a fabulous rest of your day because there's nothing more I can do for you. But before I get into those details, and I appreciate, hello with the yeses. Okay, I love it. So before I go into those details, we need to establish your success readiness level, because I understand that, and this was pointed out in the panel, there is a mental prerequisite required to embody a scaling CEO that some people just plain old aren't ready for, right? And that's okay, because we'll be here tomorrow, but tomorrow's price won't be today's price, right? And I want you to self-eliminate if you don't think you can overcome what we're about to get into. On the contrary, if it's in your DNA to turn your vision into reality with the right support and with the right roadmap, then buckle up your seatbelt because we're about to look at what that looks like. So I'm going to share my whiteboard really quickly here. Oh, Cindy says, back in the day, we were told self-care was selfish and loving yourself was conceited. Not anymore. You are absolutely right, because we're in the business of service. And in order for you to serve, you absolutely have to, just like the ladies were mentioning, you have to have a full cup to do that. Okay. So note takers are money makers. So hopefully you'll be able to write these things down really quickly. It's going to be the last thing you want to add to your arsenal from this mastermind. Okay.
And Nani, do you still want Yvonne, myself, and Zara here?
Yeah, stick around. Okay. Stick around, honey. Okay. And that, mind you, if you have to go, you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, absolutely freaking stick around. Okay.
I'm gonna grab a snack.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So you have plateaued. I'm speaking to you. You have plateaued and can't necessarily seem to surpass that 100K plus mark to get to 7 figures, or surpass your first 7-figure mark to get to multiple 7 figures, right? To reach multiple millions, because of what I like to call For broke CEO mental blocks. Okay. So I'm going to put CEO. Ooh, mental blocks. Okay. Ooh, chicken scratch. All right. I'm going to put these in red and I'm going to write these out. Okay. Here are the mental blocks. So the first one is what I like to call success avoidance. Success avoidance. Success avoidance is the fear of what will change when things finally go right. Will I be able to keep up momentum? Will I lose relationships if I start making more money? What happens when I am the authority in the room? Am I worthy of directing people to their goals? Am I worthy of stewarding people to their transformation? Can I actually achieve that? It's not the failure that you fear, it's the responsibility that comes with winning. So a lot of times you end up distracting yourself with busy work. Okay. So that's success avoidance. Let me get rid of this here. There we go. Second one. Let's type it up or write it down rather. Visibility paralysis. Remember, that was actually one of the paralysis. There we go. Visibility paralysis. This was one of the engines that we had to make sure was working inside of your business, right? Visibility paralysis is where you claim you're ready to be seen until it's time to publish a bold post that potential clients are going to see, or until it's time to DM a decision maker that has the power to write your 5 to 6 figure check, or when it's time to make the ask on a call. This is a high level fear masquerading as perfectionism or needing to quote unquote niche down more. But really, what's happening is that it's the fear of being visible and being accountable. Because once you turn on that visibility faucet, people are going to expect you to start to show up more. And you're afraid to make that kind of commitment because you know you can't hide behind, I'm just waiting for the right time anymore. Okay. Third one. Imposter management. Imposter management. Oh, hot diggity. So you're dealing with imposter management if you are not actively afraid of being successful, because you're afraid someone's going to find out that you're not quote unquote ready yet. Therefore, you subconsciously default to over explaining, over coaching, and undercharging, just like we were talking about earlier, to prove that you belong in the spaces and with the clients that are actually looking for what you do. It's giving, let me talk myself out of the sale so that they won't realize how nervous I am. Okay. And this is what makes consultative selling really, really hard, because now you're in a space where you're constantly trying to validate instead of guide them to what the natural selection is going to look like for solving problems that they articulated to you that they have. So this happens when, as a direct result of not having a mentor or the infrastructure, like the mental infrastructure, right? The knowledge infrastructure, the build out that we were talking about earlier, to guide you through what to say and what energetics that you need to lead with when you have big money conversations. You may be in a place where you believe you have to get more degrees or severely undercharge yourself when you first start out because you've compared yourself to other experts in your field that probably have half your talent and have produced a fraction of the results that you have for other people. And the difference between them and you, the only difference between them and you, is that they just marketed better and that they weren't afraid to charge their annual salary with one client. Okay. Last one. Laura said, wow. Last one is a little something called control addiction. It tells us this a whole fact. Control addiction. Now this one is going to hit my high performers, okay? You are the person that usually stays stuck in solopreneur hustle mode because you need to know every single step before you take action. And so what happens here is that you've confused control with confidence, okay? Just like Yvonne was mentioning earlier, you don't delegate, you don't test, And you don't trust that your presence alone is persuasive enough. And it's not necessarily that you're stuck, it's that you don't want to risk losing control in the process of growing. And you don't even realize that part of the process is failing fast so that you can gather data faster than anybody else and double down on what works for you. The number, how do I say? How do I say this? How do I say this? If you if you value perfectionism more than the process, you're going to keep learning this and gathering that, and you're going to stay in a hamster wheel of preparing to prepare, to prepare, to prepare, to prepare with nothing to show for it. Okay. Y'all think it's fear of failure that's holding you back? I would say not. I'd say it's the fear of being seen closing 5 and 6 figure deals. I'd say it's the fear of being expected to lead. That's why you may hide behind content. That's why you may over explain on sales calls. And that's why you keep waiting for the right time to show up on LinkedIn. That is self sabotage disguised as strategy, but it's not really strategy, right? So we're throwing that in the trash. We're throwing that in the trash. We're replacing that with rich buyer psychology because confidence is what closes, authority is what attracts. Okay. And this is like taking us to a different level as scaling CEOs. Okay. And so most people, and I'm gonna just say this. I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. Most people are not growing, not because of who they are now, but because of where they believe they are now. So, for example, if I adopted that mindset back in 2016, 2017, when your girl didn't have a home to lay my head up under, we were full on homeless. Okay, I'd probably still be in that same part because I would have believed there was no, I would not have thought big enough, and I would have believed that that was my life, right? But here's the beautiful part: believing doesn't cost you one red cent. It's $3.99. I remember Zara mentioned Myron Golden. He was one of my favorite mentors. And what he mentioned is that it's easier to make a lot of money in a short amount of time than it is to make a little bit of money over a longer period of time. And what I like adding to that is that what's hard is becoming the person that can do that. Because just like everybody mentioned, it is in fact a transformational growth journey that you have to go through. And some of us won't even allow our imaginations to think on a level beyond where we are because we're afraid that we're going to start hoping for it and then it won't happen. But if you're stopping yourself from believing that you can have the results that you desire, I'm talking traveling the world in some cases, if that's what you want to do. I'm talking bills paid in advance. I'm talking family vacations paid in full, just like Roselle. Hello. I'm talking about waking up to 5,000, 10,000 plus dollar transaction notifications. I'm talking about waking up every day to a new client email or a text or a video message like Cindy. Oh my God, this warmed my heart. They were thanking you for changing their life with your $1 million offer. That actually made me cry, by the way. And I'm already hormonal. Okay. Right. I'm talking about your team taking care of 90% of your daily operations. I'm talking about you showing up 10 hours a week, 3 days a week, however many times you want to in the week, not having to worry about being the person that wears all the hats. You're just checking in, right? I'm talking taxes paid. I'm talking from the extra money. Now you hired a cleaning lady to keep your atmosphere immaculate, which feels amazing. I'm talking about you hiring a chef to consume healthy meals to take the stress and guesswork from prepping and nourishing your family. I'm talking about you getting to spend time homeschooling your kiddos if that's what you decide to do. And if you're anything like me, I'm talking about sitting on a porch in the middle of nowhere on land that you own, looking at your goats and chickens. Okay. I'm talking about having a marriage that's better than any freaking fairy tale on TV. If you don't allow yourself to believe that you are, in fact, worthy of those things, and those things are already yours, even if they're not something tangible that you can see and feel and taste and smell right now, they just so happen to be on layaway from God, right? Then you're going to stay stuck. You want to know how I know your level of belief? Look at where you are currently. Your actions and your current situation are a direct reflection of your belief system because we only act towards what we believe. There's so many of us that say, well, I'm going to have $1 million business, but you're terrified of investing $100,000. It's not going to happen. Some of us say, I'm going to sell 6 figure offers, but you're offended if people sell you six-figure offers. That's not going to happen. Some of us say, I want to have high-end clients, right? But you've never allowed yourself to have a high-end experience. You wouldn't know how to serve a high-end client if one smacked you silly. Like, we got to be real with ourselves. All I'm saying is, before I step off my podium, is that make sure moving forward that if you plan on assuming the identity of a scaling CEO, a $1 million rainmaker, whatever you want to call yourself, just make sure your actions follow suit. That means when you're in places and spaces like this, you were taking notes. That means when you're outside of places and spaces like this, you are taking massive, imperfect action because done is better than perfect. That means implementing when the game plan is given to you as it's given to you. Because just like Zara mentioned, the person who gives you the game plan already told you the shortcuts to avoid. So if you look and go, I think I'm going to go in this direction instead. Good luck. Good luck, right? That means asking for help when you need it. That means asking questions to accelerate growth. If we have a deal, if hopefully you're going to take what you learned over these last 3 days and implement that into your being, type deal in the chat. That way I know we're solid. Okay. Okay. Now I'm also gonna share my screen. Give me 1 second. Give me a second. Yeah. Now I will say, hello with my deals in the chat. Yes. Yes, it was a deal, all the deals. Now, I will say that you told me you wanted to learn about how we can apply this to your business and lock down essentially 10 high ticket clients this year, with your first one being before I want to say realistically, usually when I work with my elite clients, it's usually about between months 3 and 4 that typically happens, right? But I will say that winning or following these particular steps is what led hundreds of founders to increasing their prices, hundreds of founders to positioning themselves for $1 million growth and scaling with simplicity. And the ones who were consistent multiplied their wins to see a 2x, a 10x, sometimes even a 20x plus return on their efforts. So mind you, caveat, I brag about my clients. Y'all know this at this point because you've heard from several of them, whether it be through automated video, if you heard from them live. Okay. One of them is Jessica, who is the founder of Your Care Essentials. And so her superpower, and you'll hear me say superpower throughout the last few minutes we have together. Your superpower is the perfect marriage between what you're really good at doing and what you love to do, and how you're able to build a business that feeds your soul as well as your family. So in her case, she is a feminine wellness product creator, and she designs and produces her own line of bath and beauty products. Now, before she came to us, she was working as a bank auditor. She had unfortunately gone through a divorce, and she had unsuccessfully started her mompreneur journey by doing all the freaking things by herself. So in her case, not only was she not making money in her business, she was losing money in her business. So she had no leads coming in. She tried posting on Instagram, tried Facebook ads, lost money doing that. She had no consistent brand exposure, and she was also very, very unorganized. What we noticed, and just like the ladies were mentioning, when you don't have any systems, what happens is that when you're unorganized, that directly leads to stress and overwhelm. So she was like 99% of the founders who first start working with us. Generally, they have no idea where their next sale is coming from. There are typically no systems that are set in place that guide potential customers through the sales process on autopilot. They have no idea who their best payers are. And what we also notice is that their emotions are tied to their businesses to a degree, rightfully so. Your business is your baby. So when you pour your blood, your sweat, your tears, all the things into it, when that baby matures, it's taking care of mama, right? But what happens is that burnout and overwhelm start to become a regular part of your routine, right? Because you have been the person, to Laura's point, done the hard work that's already scraped and had to, how do I say, had to have the somewhat delusional mindset that you could get past your current reality. And you did that. And you've trained the people around you to rely on you to the point where they rely on you so much, you look around and you go, oh my God, there's nobody to help me, right? That's what happens. But what I notice is that there's a stark difference between, just like Zara was mentioning, when you're in business, you're in competition. And there's a stark difference in personality between the ones that stay stuck and the ones that actually get out here and become success stories. The ones that that stay stuck always divorce themselves from their success before they give themselves a chance. Classic imposter syndrome. I typically remember when I told you to look to disqualify those kinds of clients. Don't talk to somebody that hasn't done the mental prerequisite, because even if they have the budget, they will speak to you as though they are broke. I am not here to convince you. I'm not here to. And here's the line. Here's the line that I put on social media. It had to have been over a year ago. I said, you want to know why a lot of coaches stress mindset? I said, because there's no point in leading a horse to water. They're going to fight you to drink it. What are we doing? Okay. So I've had to learn, especially with closing the kinds of deals that I've been able to close and building the kind of business and leading the kind of teams that I've been able to lead. I've realized, okay, I need to talk to the people who already are self-assured, who already have a vision, who already know how to take action, etc. Because those are the people that actually get results. Those are the people that will be the less of a headache for you, right? Again, those are the people who will pay in full, no questions asked. Those people who will leave you raving reviews. Those are the people who are light as a freaking feather to work with, right? And those success stories are determined already to blossom into the very best versions of themselves, right? And when it comes to their mindset, their health, and their wealth, they are freaking on it, baby. So let's talk about some of her wins. I know in her first 7 months, because she's been with us for a few years now, in her first 7 months of working with us from ground zero, this was selling products at the time that were between $10 and $30. She made her first 105K, and she did that with less than 3,000 social media followers. Now, this woman has already crossed over at this point. She's crossed over her first million in 2024. So to date, she is a full-time distributor. She's selling her products in Walmart and other local wellness hospitals, and we could not be prouder of Jessica. Now, our philosophy is extremely simple. Here we go, Zara. She says, we're not begging in 2026. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Our philosophy is very simple. Once you know exactly what it takes to generate the bare minimum of $25,000 a month using social media automation, because you have to be visible, and proven sales strategy, at that point, you literally will have cracked the code in printing your own money. What we've seen is that less than 10% of minority-owned and less than 12% of women-owned businesses ever even reach that first six-figure mark, and then less than 1% of those get to seven figures. We have been on a relentless mission to help no less than 1,000 business owners, 1,000 founders, especially women business owners, no discrimination to the guys, but we have an affinity for helping women first, right? To get to their first million. Okay. So at this point, if you've been in our world, you've already seen the stats. You've seen where we worked with driven, ambitious business owners who have made a name for themselves. These are people who have won awards. These are people who have been featured by and who work with platforms like Apple, for example, Hulu, been featured on Essence. Their books are on Barnes & Noble shelves. They've done work with Goldman Sachs and Forbes BLK. They've been featured in Inc. You name it, like they are the ones that do the things, right? We have helped thousands to grow their businesses with our programs, and hundreds who work with us in higher proximity have scaled to amass a total of just under $12 million in revenue since 2020, which is so exciting to say. And this is from scratch. This is no venture capital. This is from ground zero, grassroots. So we know how to make money from nothing, okay? Because I've not had the credit to apply for funding, just full transparency, okay? I will also say that we have an 80% first-time Air Assistant match rate, meaning that 8 out of every 10 founders that are matched with Air Assistants stay with their first choice for longer than a year. So I think we're doing something right in this corner of the internet. So in this particular case, you may be thinking, well, yeah, this sounds all great and fine and lovely. Is this actually going to work for my business model? So short answer is yes. And we have receipts. Laurel Lane, I don't know if y'all are familiar with her, but if you have ever looked at or researched how to run profitable meta ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, etc., she's the co-founder of the Social Sales Lab, and she is the GOAT when it comes to all things running ads, right? So she and I started working together because she needed systems and strategies to convert leads without having to spend so much money on ads. So what we did was that we deployed a company-wide challenge in our first 30 days that generated about $84,000 in enrollment sales without having to spend a penny on ads. Our first 45 days, brought in about 134K, and she's been scaling up and up since then. She's a multi-seven-figure business owner. Bobby Riley is a celebrity makeup artist. And she's the daughter of Teddy Riley, who is the guy that essentially created the genre of New Jack Swing music, which is kind of like a mix of R&B and pop and all of that stuff. So if you know about what's his name, Bobby Brown, and the guys from the late 80s, early 90s, like that was him. Okay. So Steve achieved six-figure status in her very first year working with us, and this woman secures contracts with MTV, Netflix, Hulu, Vox Media, and like she is all about helping other artists, other makeup artists, break into the industry through their makeup artistry services. We talked about Ashley yesterday. You saw her, and I absolutely love talking about Ashley because with her being an Africa wealth strategist, like she's the person that you go to whenever you want to move, work, or do business on the continent of Africa. So she definitely has a social media presence. And when we started working together, she's actually one of our brand partners. And so she ran a retargeting campaign right after the first event that we hosted together that brought in about 8.5K in just under 2 weeks. After that, we up-leveled her $1 million offer to a bare minimum $25,000 offer, which has now been upgraded to a $30K offer. She sold 5 of those and then was like, you remember when she mentioned in the video yesterday, she was like, I wonder what it's like to do a $150K offer, $1 million offer. Well, she created that $125,000 offer and sold one. Okay. So she is like doing her thing. Maria is a device as a service tech founder. So she's in the trucking industry and she pretty much sells the electronic log devices that they use in their trucks. Now, she was able to close a new client that used 283 trucks for their fleet. So that one client totaled $173,196 in new revenue. And that was like within our first 60 days together. So super proud of her. Danielle, she has some sound to her video. Give me a second here.
Blew my mind, but I followed that triple C method in our 90-day action plan, and I made over $300,000 in 7 days. So I sent Nani that screenshot. I was amazed. I was shocked. I knew I was going to make money because I continue to follow the 90-day action plan, but it was 360 something thousand dollars. I don't even remember the number. The amount was $300,000 in 7 days. I do. I show up at every single laser session because there's always new gems dropped every single time, and using those little tidbits that you might have missed in the last class, what's going to get you to that next level of making that money, to see everything that you're working.
Oh man. Okay, so first of all, Danielle is one of our Hall of Famers. Camille, I just read your comment. You said Teddy Riley did a book release. He told us about it. He was like, I'm doing a book release. I need some air assistance. We need help. We need help. Yes.
Be a book signing. I was invited to that. The venue didn't work out. So they were like, hey, does your venue work? I was like, I
wish I would have known. I was probably out of town back then because I had just got finished speaking to them about 2 weeks ago. So if I'd have known they were in freaking Pittsburgh 3 weeks ago, I probably would have gone.
Mm-hmm. It was a great book. I cracked his book open, read a couple pages to my husband. But that's good to see what his daughter's doing too.
Exactly.
And she's a client.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yes, ma'am. So Danielle, I have to say she's a Hall of Famer because when we were working together, she was averaging about $1,500 to $2,000 a month. After her first year, she made $132K, and then she ran what we call a triple C strategy required. That's what made her $360,000 in a week. At this point, she's generated, I have to update this, over $3 million in revenue since 2021, and she wholesales her hair care brand. Okay, so we're so proud of Danielle. Now, mind you, we don't have all day for me to talk about all the impact, all the things. That was a screenshot that Danielle shared with us. of her bringing in her $360,000 week. This is another one from a founder that sells skincare with her first 5-figure month. This one was from Tay, who's the founder of Ava Lash Company, and she made $100,832.45 in a 90-day time span. So April, May, June, July. Yeah, 3-month time span. And then that was the voice note from Bobby talking about, oh, I just did my taxes, I made 6 figures, blah, blah, blah. So we're just like, yes, Pinky Cole needs to be in our atmosphere. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is introduce you to the system that is helping our founders get these kinds of results. Our system, and it's housed inside of our scaling accelerator. This is a system that allows you to get matched with your dream team, that allows you to deploy and delegate automation systems and to scale your sales results. This into for your business reside, and we install them using this blueprint. Okay, so for our clients, we pretty much roll out the red carpet. We come in like doctors to dissect, diagnose, and deliver on 5 pillars. You have positioning, profit diversity, strategic partnerships, event execution, and results multiplier. So we first focus on and audit positioning that you have for your current client base, especially considering your goal of making sure that you're how do I say, selling at no speak to your perfect payer so well, they want to throw their credit card at you when they see your offers because it hits a very micro problem that they're happy to pay to solve. So to nail this, we provide you what used to be a 90-day action plan. We've actually extended it to a designed to be your pathway to an additional 6 to 7 figures in closed revenue in the shortest amount of time, using the most efficient tools and strategies that work in 2026 and beyond. Okay. In the profit diversity phase, this is where we focus on where you're leaving money on the table. Zara was mentioning the injection that happened during quarter 4 when she first started working with us. This is where that comes from. So the first thing we focus on is where you've been leaving money on the table inside your current email list, inside your text list, inside your current social media following,